Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Hop Program. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and I am joined by a man who works out 7 days a week, all day long. The only problem is he's working out equations. And he also happens to be that one guy in every group of friends who's way too nice to everybody, but especially that guy that's trying to steal your girlfriend. I am talking about your friend, my one black friend, a man who needs no introduction. How are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. We are also joined by our very special guest. He is one of the fastest rising stars in the religion, theology, counter-apologetics, apologetics space. The very gracious and always fun Richard Madsen from Demolished Doctrine.
Peace and respect to you all, and to anyone who watches this in the future, and side chat as well.
Yes. Shout out to the chat. Actually, let me pull up. I got my restream chat here just in case things get a little wonky. Richard Taylor, thanks so much for coming through and being first. We appreciate you. Mm-hmm. All right, Richard, I gotta apologize. I always have you in this space as like I think of you as part of like the agnostic atheist community, right? And I forget that you're actually a theist. And our policy with theists is to ask them for their favorite 3 scriptures. Yes. I didn't do that because I'm a terrible human being. So if you'd like to, take a minute and find those or share those with us, we'd love to hear it. Otherwise, I brought you on because I think you're a super interesting dude. You believe things that I didn't quite understand. They're new to me, right? And so I wanted to see you have this conversation with our community and my one black friend. We're always trying to understand, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? So I don't know if you want to start with scriptures, but you can, or if not, we can just move forward. It's totally up to you.
That would be fine. I'd appreciate telling you. I guess the 3 that come to your mind fastest are your 3 favorites, right? That makes sense.
3 favorites.
Yeah.
So that would be Genesis 1:1.
All right, let me we try to pull them up. Actually, do you want to read them to us? Do you want to pull them up and read them?
I would be privileged.
Okay.
Genesis 1:1, which reads, "In the beginning of what concerns you, powerful angels reformed the sky and the planet."
Now, Richard, I got to be honest with you. Richard, I got to stop you there, right? Richard, why? No problem. But I could see you're reading you're going to get us into some translation. I need to pull up the Bible Gateway.
Young's literal translation? Is that Young's literal translation, Richard?
No, it's better than Young's.
It is? Okay.
Young's makes too many doctrinal assumptions. This makes none.
All right, so let me pull up the Bible Gateway. We're going to have the Bible Gateway this, guys. We got serious people in the house today. I see we're gonna have to get into the word.
And my second favorite, although I'm not skipping over, we can come back to that.
Yep.
Genesis 1:1 is 1 Chronicles 6, 1 through 53. But I would only read the first several names. The Christians read it as a lineage, a list of names, but those names have meanings. And if you read the names in the order given, it would sound like this.
Hang on one sec.
Sorry,
no, you're good. All right. And then, all right, I'm going to pull them up and then I'll put them on screen and then I'll let you know when I've got that going. All right. So we're going to do Genesis 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the third one? I'll pull that up and then we'll pull them all
up. The second one is 1 Chronicles 6.
Yep. And then what's the third one?
Psalm 139.
Psalm 139. There's a lot of Psalms. All right. Let's pull that up. And then let me see if I can add my screen back here. won't matter too much.
While you're doing that, could I read from First Chronicles, that list of names?
I'm going to, I think I've got it. Let me see. I should have it. I should actually have it ready here. Hang on a sec. Just 1 sec. It'll be ready. All right. I got it going. It's in full screen. Give me the translation you'd like us to read from.
The Richard Madsen translation.
What's the closest? That's not the
Richard Madsen translation is the closest.
Oh, so you don't want me to read any of these?
Oh, it's a waste of your time.
Well, can we at least compare them so we can see what? Well, which one do you think typifies like the, you know what I mean, like a good comparison of where they're messing it up?
Bring up if you want to do that, bring up an interlinear.
Okay.
INT.
Only thing I got here is a bunch of international ones. You got anything else we can compare it to? ISV
you could go to Blue Letter Bible and bring up the INT, or just forget the whole thing because it's all a mess.
All right. My one black friend, what do you think? Or INT, what's that?
I'd say let them use the Richard Madsen in translation, and then anybody who's interested in seeing what other scholars have come up with over the centuries, they can go look.
Yeah, sure.
He's here. Okay. We're lucky to have him.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been listening to him being interviewed elsewhere, and I'm definitely highly enthusiastic to hear what he has.
How are you? That is so kind of you. Thank you so much, my one black friend.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
It just sounds terrible if a white guy says your name.
People say it all the time. Don't worry.
That's hilarious. So you could bring it up. I just put it in private chat.
Oh, okay. Guys, I didn't know we were getting down like that. I thought the Richard Madsen translation was metaphorical.
No, it's written.
Oh. Well, excuse me, Mr. Madsen. That's awesome. Thank you.
It only goes to Genesis 18 so far.
Okay.
But there you have it.
All right. We got the real deal, folks. All right, let's get it, Richard.
So if should I read from First Chronicles if you wouldn't mind?
Whatever you want to. Yeah, sure, that's fine.
So if you read this in the overly translate or underly translate, depending on how you look at it, say King James, etc., it's going to read like a list of names. Somebody begat somebody begat somebody. First Chronicles 6, 1 through 53. United by a refugee, an ally to the bitter, an ally to the high people, the anointing seat of association and the strength of God from high people, the wish of God drawing out people rebelliously, the wish of God and a volunteer worshiper of God. God is a helper from the high desirable place. God is a helper against the mouth of a serpent. That's the first sentence of names.
All right. So break that down for us.
Well, if I continued, and this goes on like this for 4 continuous pages in average size print on average size page, it tells the story of end times, but it's in First Chronicles 6, which is, of course, Old Testament or Torah. So there's a story of the book of Revelation in Torah, is what I'm saying. But a natural Hebrew-speaking person would hear those names as their meanings, not as names. And the Christian mistake, the English mistake, the Latin mistake was thinking they were only names.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just literally read you a list of names.
I appreciate that. By the way, guys, thanks to guys coming over. The reason we're broadcasting everywhere, we're trying to get all these eyes. But yes, please head over to Hot Program. Follow us on Hot Program. We appreciate you guys coming through. Otangelo, I see you. Randy, No Name, Repo Sandman. I'm probably still messing that up, but appreciate you guys. My one black friend, you were looking to get in here on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Richard. When I had a lot of teachers for creative writing and that sort of thing, and they encouraged us to to do things like this. They encouraged us to learn to tell multiple stories simultaneously. And eventually they figured you're going to have some readers that will pick up on what you're doing. Sort of maybe some of our audience has done improv. There's a game in the scene, and some people only see the scene but never the game. Once you realize what the game is, it's a whole lot more fun to watch. So I long have sensed they were doing this in the Bible, because sometimes they out and out say it. And Richard, I think you may have noticed this too. Sometimes a new writer doesn't fully understand what a previous writer meant. They're misinterpreting it. And I think that has caused a lot of pain over the centuries. But it's very, believe me, I'm taking this enthusiastically that you're reading this way. And especially since you mentioned protecting it, would you say protecting against the mouth of a serpent?
I still have it open. The wish of God drawing out people rebelliously, the wish of God and a volunteer worshiper. God is a helper from the high desirable place. God is a helper against the mouth of a serpent.
Against the mouth of a serpent. All right. I want to focus on the serpent thing. So for me, the Adam and Eve story is an allegory. And
most certainly.
And after studying it so much, I'm wondering if it wasn't written when they were in Babylon, or maybe even the Assyrian captivity.
It's interesting you should say that.
Yes, and the serpent is the old ways of the Hebrews, the Hebrew law, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil is the Hebrew law itself.
Wait, I want to expound on that.
Sure.
The reason it's a tree is because it's made of tree fibers?
No, sir.
And what's that?
Well, go ahead. No, I disagree. Go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay to disagree. And the reason that it is knowledge is because it's communication. And the knowledge is of good and evil. That is, it communicates through tree fiber what is good and evil, i.e., the Bible itself is the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Whoa, is Tux here? Somebody get Tux on this. All right, go ahead, continue, fellas.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
Tux often says this about the Bible, and I think he gets a lot of flack. And yeah, you guys should link up on this.
Well, in books like Ezekiel, we get people groups being talked about as trees. So I think what we're seeing is if you go into Nehemiah, like Nehemiah returns to Jerusalem, to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
So you may remember, I think I'm pretty sure it's in Ezra, where you have groups of people returning from captivity. And if they had children with foreign women, those people are being killed. Those children and those wives are being killed.
Okay.
So I think part of what we see in the Adam and Eve story is that you have these people returning. They are your brethren, and yet they get slaughtered because they are not purebloods, if you will, pure-blooded Hebrews. So it's a long thing, and I've been wanting to write something more formal about it, Richard. I haven't sat down to do it because I have a job that I work 7 days a week sometimes. Most of this year has been that way. So I just don't have the time to do it. But for me, after listening to you on several other programs, and I'm sure we'll get into some of those things here, I found your interpretations fascinating because I feel you really went for trying to grasp the meaning and not the surface stuff that people will listen to for an hour and a half in church and then go home remembering almost none of it.
I'm certainly very serious. I'm sure of that.
Yes. So thank you for sharing those. Richard, I would say your knowledge is very deep and diverse. What's something that you spend a lot of time studying that people just never get around to asking about, because maybe it's deep into what you know and not so much on the surface where you've covered it in a video here, a video there. What are some of those things?
I'm pretty good with a backhoe. I'm just kidding. No, really, I'm only interested in a deep sense in these ancient religious stories and understanding the context from the cultures and places of those times. And the more that I study that, the more I think that comparative religion doesn't go near far enough. It falls way short of the intended, or it's hard to say intended, of the obvious goal that all of these things are actually coherent within each other. That there is only one story of the salvation of mankind.
What is, if you can talk about it, what is mankind experiencing salvation from?
Well, first we get really bad ideas sometimes, like using herbicides that just broadly kill things. We are killing the honeybee. We are poisoning the oceans at something to the tune of 12,000 gallons per day from Japan. We are causing global warming, and I think I could give slow down, Richard. I think I can give good evidence that's at least persuasive to many people that the Northern Hemisphere's governments are preparing for an eruption of Yellowstone. Now, that would plummet us into an ice age by almost twice as much as what's needed.
I think that's the issue right there. I think that's the one that I don't hear enough about. The Yellowstone exploding.
You guys want to talk about Yellowstone? I've done so much research on that.
I'll let you guys determine that.
I'm going to run out of things to say really fast, Richard, if we talk about Yellowstone.
All right, go ahead.
That's okay. I can fill in for you. But let's stay to religious stories. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, you touched on Yellowstone. I think preparedness for, I would say, disasters that can happen locally, even, local flooding, tornadoes and things like that. It's never a bad idea to be prepared for such eventualities. I live in an area that is prone to wildfires. So for me, that's always a concern. What am I grabbing? Because I'm certainly not going to take everything I own with me.
Right.
Right. So I leave the bike rack on my Prius. I'll take a few bicycles and some computers. And the rest,
the art piece on the wall behind you, leave that. It's hideous.
This is a hotel. I'm in a hotel. I've been here for
good.
4 months.
All right, guys.
I go home next week.
Richard, we love you. You're an honest man. Anybody that'll tell a person that their wall art is ugly to their face is my kind of guy.
It gets worse because there's more of it. It just keeps going
well, luckily you don't have to live there permanently.
So I want to touch quickly on what Lena said, which is, I think what a lot of us would agree on, which is we need to stop focusing on religion to solve our problems. We need to find real solutions. And to me, I want to do a whole thing on prayer activism. It's one of my, thoughts and prayers. Like, I can't think of anything.
Can I present something?
But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on it.
I'd like to add to your possible argument against that.
Sure.
Here's the argument, and this is very biblically based. If it was always logically possible, according to the Bible, that we could be ascended to heaven, and that decision is made by the Father, then we could be ascended to heaven at any time as decided by the Father. If the Father is aware that we are here and suffering, the Father has chosen us to suffer. If you pray to ask for a change of the plan, you're telling them that the plan is bad.
Right. So this is almost where there's an attitude almost that would say that's counter intervention, right? Don't intervene.
Right.
This is the work of the Lord.
Don't intervene.
By the way, I want to shout out Bread of Life. Thanks so much for coming through. We appreciate it. We know you were probably just in the house of the Lord for Sunday service and giving your all to Jesus. And for you to find a little time in your Sunday afternoon to be with us means the world. But also, thanks so much for being our guest on the show, guys. Go check out our episode where we interviewed Rebecca. It was an absolute wonderful experience for both of us. And I'm hoping to join Rebecca soon on Bread of Life and maybe examining evolution, but we're all huge fans around here. Also, Rebecca, way to handle these late night streams lately. Rebecca been doing all these late night streams and just going and going and going. The girl's broadcast game is serious. All right, that's Bread of Life, y'all. Check her out, please, please, please. Go ahead, gentlemen. I'm just being a YouTube pervert.
All right, and Richard, to give you a scripture to back up what you were saying, Revelation 3:19 in the King James. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent.
Amen. That it does say quite directly, and more than just that one place that you found.
Oh, yes, true.
Be a good student, properly dividing the word.
Mm-hmm.
There's one.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, we could spend an hour talking about just that one topic, I think, but let's go on from there. So it seems to me that implicitly and accidentally, religious people call their God stupid. Here's how they're doing that. If you say that I am suffering right now, and that's bad, then you have to say that God intended you bad, right? Because if God put you here, then God intended you bad.
According to a lot of people's theology.
How can you even say that this is bad, sir?
I would say according to a lot of the way we understand Christianity, sure. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who say, oh, that's not my Jesus or whatever, but I think most of us
Well, they haven't thought about it yet. Give them 5 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
And beyond that, if you say that you are the intended reader of the Bible, then you're calling your God an idiot. So not only is he cruel, he's also an idiot. And here's how. If you write a set of instructions, which the Bible is obviously instructions and encouragements and promises and things like that, for someone who simply can't do it, you're teasing them. And if you're aware they can't do it, again, you're mean. And more than that, you're stupid because you just wrote a set of instructions and promises that will never be fulfilled because the reader can't do it. So ask any Christian when they are going to complete the Bible, they will say never. But if you ask them who is going to complete the Bible, they'll say Jesus. The only logical conclusion is that Jesus is the intended reader of the Bible.
All right. Go ahead, my friend.
Now,
you Bible nerds on fire. I don't want to interview you. Go ahead.
Now, Richard, am I mistaken? Did you get into that with, there's a YouTuber known as This One Guy. Did you get into that with him when you were going through Revelation?
I have.
You have? Okay. I think I'm on the 4th episode. I do encourage our audience to enjoy that on Richard's channel. He's shared that with us.
It was painful.
What I liked about This One Guy is that clearly he had a learner's heart about it. He didn't approach it like he knew it all. And
that is true.
Yeah, he was humble, and I know he was. Well, I got the feeling he was doing his best. So
I do believe he was doing his best.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that. But when you start what ifing, and it's just totally off topic, that's just annoying to me. Now, maybe I'm too hard on topic, but for me, that's frustrating.
Well, if you stay on topic, you can probably get through some of it. If you all over the place, you'll be all over the place.
Right.
So I find it very interesting. So I guess, Richard, you and I may need to get into it here for our audience. If you want to expound about how Jesus might be the intended recipient in Revelation.
Sure. Okay. So if I asked your typical Christian, who is it that, or what they, I'll even use they, being as vague as possible in the general, and say they tell the absolute truth of God. They are persecuted for it. They die. They are dead 3.5 days. They are raised from the dead. They continue to tell the truth about God for 40 more continuous days, and then they are elevated into heaven. There's only one time frame in the Bible where that story is given, Now, obviously, it's the story of Christ, Jesus, in an internal critique. But the time frame is the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, i.e., the book of Revelation's two witnesses is the Christ doing his job. This explains a lot. This explains why his ministry is 3.5 years. Does that ring a bell? Half of 7. It explains why there's so few people around and none are true believers. That's because the ascension has already happened. I could just keep going like that, but I want to hear what you think.
Well, Revelation is a many splendored thing, Richard. I think there's so much there.
Yes.
I listen to it on audiobook probably 5 times a month. And something I think I'm picking up, I'm going to have to pick up the book and actually read it again. I'm wondering if maybe Bobby Collier he's another YouTuber, the Good God channel. I wonder if he isn't onto something, because he stated that in the Old Testament, there are multiple gods. There are 2 specific chief gods that are opposing each other.
Uh-huh.
And like King David's son dying, King David being punished for numbering Israel, that sort of thing, or punishing people for numbering Israel. The flood. Now, I know you have your own take on the flood, which is fascinating, that the people are waters, ladies and gentlemen. So things like that would make one God seem rather cruel. And on the other hand, you have this really benevolent God, which is trying to support Israel and groom Israel into being a nation of really wonderful people that treat each other well and treat others well. And then there's, again, the nasty one who's not trying to be in any way as kind.
I have to agree with you for several reasons, but probably not in the way that you suspect I would.
Okay.
There is a special phrase that identifies as the hero Christ in the story, and that phrase is Son of Man.
Okay.
When it's used in the singular sense, male, it's talking about Jesus. Mm-hmm. Now, that appears in our modern translations a total of 50 times throughout, say, the King James. Okay. Mm-hmm. But 30 of them are only in the book of Ezekiel. Now, Ezekiel is not 30 out of 50% of the Bible. It's just not. Okay. Mm-hmm. In fact, every chapter starts with Son of Man. Now, this is a wrong labeling unless Ezekiel is the Christ. Okay. So I want to point that out. More than that, throughout the text, whenever a prophet, Mary, whomever, sees and encounters some kind of an angel and becomes faint for it, whether it's faint as an expression of respect or faint as actual fainting, the same result happens throughout all of the Bible. The angel lays their right hand on their shoulder, reassures them, unless they're female, in which case the reassurance is only verbal, not physical, and helps them to their feet. Not Ezekiel. Ezekiel, the Spirit lifts him up and puts him on his feet. Nobody apologized. Nobody explained anything. Mm-hmm. And Michelangelo makes this mistake from the book of Ezekiel because it's the only description. If I took my human foot and I wanted to put it inside of a hard single fingernail of some kind of large herd animal, like say a horse, I might be able to fit my foot inside of a Clydesdale's hoof, but I certainly couldn't fit it into a cloven hoof of any kind, and I certainly couldn't put my foot into the hoof of a calf. Now, hoof of a calf is a specific size. It's somewhere, calves are born with the hoof about 1 1/4 inches across, and by the time they get to a near reproductive age at about 2 years of age, their hoof is about 3 inches across. Now, that's about the size of my ankle. I'm never getting my foot in that. More than that, Ezekiel describes the angels, which there are 4 of, and says that they have wheels within a wheel, breastplates, shining brass foot, which means from the calf, about midway down calf, all the way to the toe. That's your quote unquote foot. Mm-hmm. And they have 4 wings, and the wings and all of those things he describes in some detail, including some coloration, some symbology, and stuff like that. Then he says a very important line, which the Christians ignore. He says, as to the living animal, which is the same as saying, I just saw this stuff, even things that move, but they're not alive. He's saying these things are wearing prosthetics.
So he's making a distinction there. You're saying like, so he's drawing that and then saying as to the other things that you observe ordinarily.
Right.
Let me get in some of these questions from the audience. And also, guys, I got to remind you, we are going to end today's broadcast around 5 so that I can, I've been getting in trouble for not being on time to my officer meetings after this. Yeah, I'm trying to, we're going to try to have Richard answer some of these questions, and we'll try to keep them succinct so our audience can clarify. Cameron Bennett's a bit lost, but I think we'll try to get some context around these questions. So Eat Honey, Be Happy said, lots of Christians would say the Bible's already completed, not that Jesus will complete the Bible. Some Christians believe Jesus already come back a third time. Quickly, you guys, your thoughts on that?
There's a few living people that claim to be Jesus.
Yeah,
right now.
I've met 8 of them in a decade myself. No, you can find any variation that you might look for. And that's absolutely true. Which begs the question, why do I accept the variation that I do? It's because it's coherent within itself. It's correspondent to reality. It begs no questions. It answers more questions than it asks. In fact, it only answers questions. And it requires no defeat or bending of physics.
Pretty straightforward. So, Repo Sandman, sorry if I'm getting that wrong, said, I think it's a fun idea. It was written to please Jesus, something like that. Not that I believe it, but it sounds cute. Well, I'm glad you think it's interesting. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so Jesus already coming back. Let's see. There is some commentary on this in 2 Timothy. Bible Gateway. I don't want an explanation. I just want to read it. Okay. 2 Timothy chapter 1. Okay, chapter 1. I'll read like 16 to 18. It's in 18. Avoid godless chatter, because those who indulge in it will become more and more ungodly. Their teaching will spread like gangrene. Among them are Hymenaeus and Philetus, who have departed from the truth. They say that the resurrection has already taken place, and they destroy the faith of some.
Amen. So the Bible says it has not happened.
That's what it says right here. But I think you and I could go in Revelation and wonder a little bit more. Are Philetus and Hymenaeus, are they already reading Revelation at that time and getting that interpretation that this has already occurred? Because as you well know, a lot of things we read in Revelation, we've already read. If you've read the Bible beginning to end, you read them in Daniel, you read them in Ezekiel, you read them in Isaiah, you read them in Jeremiah.
So then would that be Jesus coming back is the beginning of the last days, not the end?
Well, he appears as an adult between the ages of 30 and 70. That's what a fully grown man would be. So that means he's alive for 30 years before it starts, bare bones minimum.
Interesting. All right, so let's see. So Richard, can you address this? According to Richard, none of this has happened here yet, but it did happen on another planet, and it will happen again. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. Which is an explanation of the 24 elders. All other explanations are completely arbitrary and inconsistent.
So is that fundamental to understanding all this? Is that this is not an Earth story?
We are an Earth. We are on an Earth, not the Earth.
And then what is being described in the Bible has taken place on another Earth.
The description in the Bible is the last one who did it at the end of his planet.
And that's Jesus. That's that Christ. All right, I'm gonna let you
Jesus
get it. I'm gonna let you get it. I gotta ask like one like
Yeah.
this is the thing, and just a couple quick ones. Richard, is the Bible divinely inspired to you?
No, it's written by angels in heaven.
It's written by angels in heaven, and then my question is, and this is always the thing that I can never get over, is how do the ancient Hebrews that we understand get this knowledge?
It's always a messenger shows up and gives the knowledge, whether spoken or written or dance.
Okay, so you have kind of like an inspired Bible tradition similar to other religious perspectives in the God, right? That there may be some sort of supernatural transmission, but it's not describing supernatural events.
About a conscious being with flesh communicating with a conscious being with flesh. I see nothing supernatural.
Oh,
there.
so that's sort of a natural ability of angels to you in your world.
I really want to get to whatever happened to our friend's brain. And please hold on to that as tightly as you can. Because you looked really interesting.
Yeah.
But okay. Now, unless you beg that the word "and" means aside from, where the word "and" in the book of Revelation, chapter 7, verses 9 through 15 means along with that or in addition to. It's that kind of "and." It doesn't mean aside from that.
Okay.
There's a description of angels. It calls them angels, and it says how they got to be living with God, past tense, present tense. They're already doing it. It says they washed their clothes in the blood of the Lamb during the time of the great day of the Lord.
And then
that's end times accepting Jesus.
And then at some point they physically came here to deliver
Let me just ask you one question. What kind of an animal goes through end times accepting Jesus?
I don't know of any.
You don't know what kind of an animal would do that or could do that.
Oh, so is the answer angel? Is that
No, the answer is us, mankind does that, goes through end times and accepts Christ.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to ask, how do the people who wrote the Bible get the knowledge that they put in the Bible?
By just going through end times themselves?
On another planet? This is what I'm trying to make.
On an Earth, yes.
But how does this is the part I'm trying to figure out. So the events happen on another planet, and then we get, go ahead, my one black friend.
Okay. Richard, we have to backtrack a little, and I'm going to let you do it because you wrote this. Go back to your, what was it, First Chronicles.
Yes, sir.
And would you please reread for Pocket Locker here? Reread what you read out of First Chronicles.
Yeah, I guess that's probably that's what I mean.
You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it when he does it. Your brain is go.
All right.
Go ahead. Please.
United by a refugee and allied to the bitter and allied to the high people, the anointing seat of association, and is the strength of God from high people. The wish of God drawing out rebelliously. The wish of God in volunteer worshiper. God is a helper from the high desirable place. God is a helper against the mouth of a serpent. The father of plenty is to depopulate forcefully. Jah has risen rebellious. Jah has said his brother of goodness and his just brother of anger. Jah has helped.
Okay. So I don't know, maybe it's a little more clear. So he's saying that at another time, on another earth, this sort of thing took place. If you go to Revelation, he was just there. Revelation 9, I'm looking at, I'll start in 12, okay? Right. One woe is past.
Right.
And behold, there come two woes more hereafter. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, listen to this, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the third part of men. So remember, he was just talking about people being the depopulation, right?
Guys, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I'm just hearing Star Trek. Jesus.
You're not dumb.
You're by no means dumb.
Believe me, there were unconnected dots as I went through Revelation again and again. I'm like, there's so much here. There's so much here, and I'll never understand it all. I could read, something that Richard writes in 15 more books, and I know there's still more to know. It's simply that simple, because I think it's very intricately written, and some things which may be reinterpreted by the writers, I would say, plural, of Revelation.
But I guess for me, the interesting part is there is a claim of like interstellar activity, right? Because that's sort of my thing, right?
Absolutely.
Like as a scientist, I'm schooled in the dogma of like, well, we're trapped here on Earth and we haven't yet traveled to any other planets, and we haven't got any messages from other.
Jay, let me lead you down a line of logic. If abiogenesis is possible, and it has to happen somewhere because there is life, right?
Sure.
And if one of and people don't always take this serious, but planet seeding, I'll put it that way, is a relatively good explanation, because we can't find a decent ancient atmosphere for it to have taken place here.
Well, that's kind of what it reminded me of. It reminded me of like the Raelians, like, because
I know you're smart and you want to jump ahead, but let me finish.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, I got to try to make sure I can stay with you, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So let's say there were a center point where life began, and say that planet got blown up by its star or something like that.
Sure.
And not everything got completely cooked, but there was a spray of planet that spread throughout the universe. And of course, those simple life forms are only going to survive in a habitation where they can prosper. They're not going to do well frozen in space, nor on something too hot, too cold, etc. Right? So they need a certain environment. We have found 66 Earth-like planets called Goldilocks planets. Mm-hmm. Now, what is it about our present situation that indicates that we are what was the closest point to the origin point, granting all things being equal? In other words, there could be intelligent life that developed from those simple organisms on some other planet. How old is the universe? Billions of years ago, not millions. And that would put them on the learning curve of technology, perhaps millions or tens or hundreds of millions ahead of us in technology. Would we even understand what we saw right now if we saw it?
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I'm with you. I was mostly just kind of trying to understand it, and like I said, there are other religions that have similar claims about, their sort of creation or human origin stories, and I was just trying to establish the claim. Like I'm good with it. It makes. I mean, I get it. I was just trying to make sure. I was just trying to make sure that was the claim. No, you're fine. I just didn't want to mischaracterize you by saying, oh, there's this other thing happening, and somehow that's what ended up in the Bible. I wanted to make sure, like, that's what you're saying we have in the Bible versus, or was the original story. And then, yeah, I guess that's the
original
question.
Story is in the Bible as well, but it's not our Bible.
Yeah, I guess that's something that I may want you to touch on. Just is, the sort of
it's only one story in the Bible.
The inherent
it's the
corruption,
explanation of the origins of Adam and Eve.
But
that's in the Bible. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'll let my one black friend go ahead, because I don't, I know you're not too big on the current Bibles that we have. So,
why this is of particular interest to me, and why you saw me being so excited a moment ago. When I was a small child, probably 7 or 8 years old, I asked Brother Goldsby in Sunday school, I asked him, is the Bible just for people on Earth, or did Jesus have to go to lots of different places, other planets, and talk to the aliens? And I was scolded for this.
Let me give you some biblical. Maybe you never looked at these verses this way.
It's funny.
Go back and read the 7 letters to the churches of Asia, which I believe are angels describing themselves, angels as the 7 spirits of God, which is why there's 7 of them. And they're speaking like Mike Tyson did several times. I am the one who, like as if in the third person sort of a thing. And each one of those letters ends with a promise. And the promises build from you're going to be okay to heaven gets named after you. But the whole thing is wrapped up by the speaker saying to the one, singular, which means like one, like pointing at them, like you right there. Okay, that kind of one who overcomes. I will give him, again, you right there. As my Father did for me. I will give him a throne at my side. I will give him a crown as my Father did for me. His name will not be stricken out of the book of life. He will bear the new name of God, and heaven shall bear his name. That's the middle guy saying what his Father did for him and what he's doing for the next one.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting because we live in such a culture where even though we think of there as being like so many different interpretations, right? They're all kind of variations on a theme. And you think of this as being like, even in evolutionary sense, right? They're all descended from a inherently corrupt tree, right? Because, they got the whole thing wrong at the beginning. And then with what my one black friend was saying is that you can ask like a perfectly reasonable question as a child, which is like, hey, if this God is the God of the universe, and if Jesus is supposed to be saving all the, and it's just like, no, like there's just no space in the cultural framework to even, entertain what would otherwise be a perfectly reasonable question.
My black friend, you know why you got scolded for that, right?
Please tell me. Brother
It's
Goldstein
a cover up because he had
old.
no answer.
Well, that I figured out even back then. He didn't know, but I would have been happy, Richard, to have him say, you know what? That's not a question I can answer. And maybe I would say to a kid, that's not a question I could readily answer. And maybe in your lifetime, you won't know either. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask someone else.
Well, yeah, first suffer the children. Yeah. That's the first thing. Suffer the inquiring mind.
Yes.
They are innocent and they are telling you their truth. Grant them at least that. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I can think of, one particular place I prefer to refer to for this. Jesus wears many crowns. Now, how do you want to read that? What would it mean that someone wear many crowns? It's like saying he wears many hats, but is king.
I would say in the terms of a conqueror, if you conquer many kingdoms, you have taken many crowns, if you will, so to speak. You could wear those crowns. Yes.
Right.
I would also say I could easily interpret it in terms of the colloquialism that, he wears a lot of hats. He does a lot of different things. And maybe even we could say he does those things well.
Or possibly you're right on both counts.
Okay.
That he wears many crowns. He has many names. It says of God that he has many names. And why wouldn't that be true of his son as well? He has many names. Names like Buddha, Thor, Hercules, the gentle spirit. And that list I could never finish. It's as long as there are religions on the planet.
And do you think Jesus is all of those?
No, they are him. He is them. The story's about one being. By the way, his name's not Jesus Christ. That's nonsense.
That's a title, right? That would be.
It's a job description. It's a title that describes what you do. It literally means Jehovah saves, christened. Or christened to announce that Jehovah saves as a sentence.
Yeah, I'm with that. I just wanted to sort of ask that question. Also, we're famous. I don't know if you guys know, there's a certain benchmark that YouTube uses to decide when you're actually a famous counter-apologist. And it's when people start talking about stels on your chat, in your live chat. And we've officially crossed that threshold today. Well, so now that people are talking about ancient inscriptions of religious insignia on our live chat, we are YouTube famous. So thank you guys. Appreciate you. Love you. Go ahead, gentlemen. We got about 30 minutes, and I wanna open the floor and let you guys talk. Richard, I wanted to ask you who Jesus is to you, and I think we just kind of addressed that. So thank you for answering that question. I'm good.
Jesus of this earth, just to summarize
Sure.
for the audience, if that wasn't clear. Jesus of this earth is yet to do his 3.5-year ministry, which is during the second half of end times. So he hasn't done it yet, which is why there should be no evidence physical to him having done it. There's no physical evidence to future events. That wouldn't even make sense. And the one that you read of, and this is why there's slavery laws, by the way. The one you read of in the text is talking about the last one who did it. I do as I see my Father do before me. That is, testify, the miracles, all that stuff. The Father did before Jesus did, and he's imitating the Father. If you have seen the Father, you have seen me. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Do you think there's any way?
So they're literally doing the same job. What's that?
I was just gonna ask you, do you think there's any way to calculate when Jesus will do this, or?
Sure, there'll be signs and symbols of days and seasons. The 7 announced miracles will make it quite clear when this starts happening.
I'm sorry, I spoke over you. Forgive me. I missed part of what you said. Can you please repeat that?
I said there will be signs and symbols of days and seasons, and specifically that the signs are for an evil nation. Religious people don't need confirmation. It's nice, but they don't really need it. They're already confident. So the signs being for an evil nation means that the non-believers will come to believe because of the things they see. That's the intention of the signs.
Oh, interesting.
So is that what we should? Is that what we should see though? Like should there be a sign I see that should be getting non-believers to believe, or do you believe I'll see non-believers coming to believe because of something, and that shift in their belief will signal that this is the real one?
Option 2. Obviously, the things haven't happened because they're still an evil nation. There have not been signs.
Okay.
Or the signs are stupid and ineffectual.
Okay.
I guess I could take that logic. And small and unimpressive, and not everybody even knows about them. But if you had a quaking of the earth that spit hail and fire mingle with blood that causes a cloud that shadows 1/3 of the earth simultaneously, by the way, the only thing on this planet big enough to do that's a super volcano, then certainly everyone would know about it. If you had a binary solar system because the ignition of Jupiter in a very unnatural and unlikely way, then of course everyone would notice that Jupiter was the brightest star in the sky and in the east. Everyone would see that. You couldn't help but see it. It'd probably be brighter than a full moon. So those are the signs it's talking about, not things like, I don't know, some church rebuilt something. That's stuff men do, and that would make men in charge of God.
I would argue that that's the only way it's ever been.
Yes, sir. It has been that way.
Lena said you talked about other planets with different revelations, but you've been focused on the Bible exclusively when it comes to our planet. Is Christianity interplanetary? I think you said yes, right?
No, Christianity is not interplanetary. Every Earth would have a great variety of religions, and within any given kind of religion, several different sects, just as we do now. All of that's a mistake, although predictable in human nature. And the intent overall of the realization of heaven is to bring us out of these superstitions.
So is Christianity like our local attempt here to grasp at the bigger thing? And then it's just been like contingent upon
Let me run through the logic of
the
that.
Earth narrative.
If the Bible is an account of their end times, in fact, all religious stories are only accounts of their end times, and then they are commissioned to pass on the good news and or write what just happened to them, and they deliver that to an earth, and people read it in human nature being what it is, I'm assuming, although it's an assumption, I can't show this, that all the earths would be very similar in their religious beliefs.
Interesting. All right, go ahead, my one black friend, and then
because end times is always conducted the same way.
What I'll do is I'll have my one black friend get back in here, and then we'll wrap with some audience questions, and then conclude from there.
Can I say you guys have been a joy because you have not tried to lie yet?
Oh, this has been super fun.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, we try to.
What good would it do?
Yeah.
Well, it really offends me, and I lose my mind when people lie.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly feel like I could do a lot of crazy stuff on the internet, but lying is the one thing that will legitimately undermine my credibility as a scientist. So
yes, it will.
It just doesn't pay well in my business. But yeah, appreciate that.
It's a lot of fun to explore these things, and I've admitted it more than once. I don't know everything, but I sure do enjoy a good, fascinating interpretation of biblical texts, and you're providing that, obviously, and I think we're really just scratching the surface, because I think we could have picked any part of this
thread,
yeah, and expanded on it tremendously with what you've studied over the years.
Yes.
So definitely appreciate your time here. Which is more important, in your opinion, Richard? Mm-hmm. Should we reconcile ourselves to our fellow human beings or to God? Which is more important right now?
We should reconcile ourselves to each other in love and understanding and kindness by really devoting ourselves on a personal level to other human beings, understanding that we're all the same and there's only cultural differences. There are ideals that are different, but there's no different humans.
Are those cultural differences, I'd say in the grand scheme of things, let's frame it there, are those cultural differences important, or just a detail like eye color, ultimately?
It depends on what you mean by important. It depends on who you talk to. If you're asking me my opinion, I don't think they matter, and I'll give evidence to that. If you go to school to become a surgeon, there is no surgeons that operate on Chinese alone or white alone. You know why? Because we're all exactly the same.
Okay.
Right, so Lena had this question.
Why hasn't that caught on? Oh, sorry.
It's not a popular idea. I have no idea why. I've heard recently it's still perpetuated that menstruating, reproductive age Black females experience pain at a lesser level.
Oh yeah, people still. It's a social thing, but I think a lot of it.
People think.
But
that.
I think it's easy to reconcile, right? I think all humans are the same, right? If you go to dissect a human being, it's like when you go to dissect a frog, you're not going to ask, well, what's this? Which group does this frog? Are you just going to go about doing frog stuff to it? But
right.
Part of the actual human lived experience is the tribalism and the in-group, out-group, and all that stuff that we talk about. So part of what is going on in that brain is I need to be closer to my people and stay away from the enemy. And so all that stuff that we know is not really helping us, especially in times where we have bigger problems that we all need to sort of cooperate on. It's just, we all know that that's also just part of our history, and we've got to sort of work hard to
Kings
overcome
who don't
that.
have an enemy will invent one, because fear is a great controller of the masses.
Fear is useful.
There you go. I want to touch on Lena's question. By the way, Lena, I'm trying to do more education stuff. I'm trying to do a evolution class this fall, and I may be looking for some chat moderators, and you guys are killer with the questions. Sometimes I can't even keep up with all of them, but So is Christianity the only true revelation throughout the entire history of the universe, or should we consider the perennial philosophy to try to come to a more universal perspective? Good question.
Look, the truth is going to be revealed to us, and all these religious perspectives are going to go away. And who's going to reveal to us is sometimes called the ancestors, the Akashic records, sometimes called angels. When they make themselves obvious in a purposeful and physical intervention, we'll no longer ask these questions. What's the right religion? There is no religion.
Interesting. So Cameron, poor Cameron's been lost the whole time. Cameron, it's tough for me too, because we come from a certain like tradition, right? And so this lens is so far gone. But for me, I find it when I started doing this stuff, I wanted to ask, the two questions, they're not creative. They come from Dillahunty or whoever, what do you believe and why do you believe it? And so Richard's given that. So I'm just trying to take it in. Also, I want to ask if you had a sort of a brief message for theists, what would it be? And if you had a brief message for atheists, what would it be? Just in the sense of like, a lot of times people want to say, if we set all the doctrinal differences aside, what would you want each of those groups to know about how to help?
How to help? God, try to be a good human being. For the religious people, if the church fathers had prayed and received different inspirations from the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit is a liar, changing his mind all the time. B, your church fathers never did pray.
Wow.
For the atheist, you guys are fine. You're really fine. You're realists. You've rejected things because they're stupid and they don't make sense. Congratulations. I admire that.
Right.
Thank you for choosing reason as Jesus recommended we should.
Way to start with the correct default position.
Well, let me ask you, when you and correct me if I'm misstating what you said, when you say there is no religion, is that to sort of notify us all, look, folks, we're already beyond it, and we just have to wake up to that realization?
No, we're not beyond it.
We are not beyond it. Until the angels intervene,
we will believe that there could be these concepts of God's. Look, I'll say it this way. I believe the Father is an atheist.
God the Father.
Oh,
God the Father
I
is
flirted with the idea of an atheist Jesus, and I took so much backlash. I was like, I'm gonna just keep that one in my personal idea kit.
That can be explored, because an atheist Jesus who knew that the religious language of his his fellow Hebrews was powerful, could use that to lead them in a particular direction.
Yeah, I got to like.
I wouldn't throw that one out.
I got to like culturally Jewish, but had to do the same thing we got to do, right? When I call my grandparents, praise him, Jay, it's so good. All right, praise him, and maybe he'd want us to do this instead. Maybe he wouldn't want us to stone this woman to death. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. All right, but go ahead.
The word stone. Look, there's only one definition and no competing definition for the word stone in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. It's Torah. The Jews have it as well. So does Islam. And it goes like this. In order for something to be a stone, it must be, first of all, of two parts. You can lift no tool upon it. In other words, you can alter it in no way. It has the word of God written in it. But I can think of something that biblically would claim that it's made of two parts, has the actual word of God written in it, and you're not allowed to change it. Anyone? It's the Bible.
Yeah.
When it says stone, and we still use the phrase the same way the Hebrew did, throw the book at them. We still use it that way. It's not talking about rocks, y'all.
Very interesting. All right. We got, guys, this has been awesome. We could definitely do another series of these. I have to check back.
Yeah.
Check
This has
back
gone
in
by
with
too
this.
fast, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. The time.
We
is
haven't even
flown.
started the conversation.
I know. But yeah, Richard, go ahead. The floor is yours, man. Just tell the people what you want to talk about for a little bit, and also let us know about stuff you got us coming up, and tell us about what's going on your channel.
Life happens. My channel happens sometimes. Believe me or not, I love you.
Appreciate that.
And I love you because I'm a speciesist, and I have distinct preferences, and you have a mind that's worth knowing, all of you.
That's cool. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate you showing us love.
Me too.
And one thing, man, I heard Gin and Truth say, he says to people is, you are worth tomorrow. I was like, man, I love that. That's great. But to your speciesist thing, I appreciate that. I've even heard people talking recently about why I'm no longer a humanist, right? And they've come to that. Well, I don't believe humans, have a special place. And I'm like, bro, y'all are overthinking this. Look, like, we're cool with the animals, right? Like, a lot of us are kind of against needless animal suffering, and we could have a whole conversation about the immorality of animal suffering as its own counter-apologetic. But at the end of the day, we're all more closely related to each other than we are to our dogs, right? And
that's right.
And like, just don't overthink it. That's all being a humanist means, is you acknowledge that. And we try to take care of each other. I wanted to ask you something. Do you think the religious mindset as we currently deal with it in our culture today is almost, I always think of it as like pro-apocalyptic, right? Like all these bad things we're talking about. You talked about like how you don't intervene in the will, right? You don't intervene in the plan, or else you're saying that there's something wrong with the plan. Does that almost make you... it's almost like, we told you the end times were coming. We see the disease, see the pestilence. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, you're leading the witness.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I'm not a lawyer.
but other than that, transition is always difficult. Even a promotion is difficult. The text reads that angels came from an earth. That is, they were mankind. I believe you come and become an angel. I should respect you now. I should treat you like you already are. Wow. I should treat you like the tomorrow you.
That's crazy.
Because I am convinced of what you become. And all you have to be is not crazy and accept what you see in your actual experience. And Matt Dillahunty is full of crap, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, here's
you
a good one.
can deny the skywriting for 3 minutes. But on the 5th day, when some infant says to you, your name's what? Hasn't that been written in the sky for the past 5 days? You would start to believe the experience was actual. So, Matt Dillahunty, you're a liar.
Yeah,
you would begin to believe it.
I always say, like, there may be a lot of, see my alarms going off and everything, trying to be responsible. There's a lot of these claims where, like, if this happened or that happened, and I realize, I should still be skeptical, and I should still try to find the sound epistemology. No. I'm a trembling monkey. All right. If somebody wrote my name in the sky, I'm like, what do I need to? You know what I mean? Like, because the fear would overtake me, right? The powerfulness. Maybe you could convince me I should still be skeptical, but I'm like, whatever did that, I don't want to mess with. That's whatever did that, I'm scared of. I'm just keeping it real.
Let's make it really real. The prophecy says, and if it's true, this is an internal critique, I'll grant that. The prophecy says they're going to recover 7 mountain-sized lumps of metal off this planet and names them. That's tedious. I'm not going to. It says how they're going to do it. That is, no island will be found. There will be no more sea, and the mountains will melt like wax. This is where the lake of fire comes from that Christians pervert as hell. It's a removal of the oceans. If you remove the oceans, the crustal core temperature would no longer be regulated at the surface because there'd be no evaporation, and the whole thing would melt. Now you want to talk about a race of intergalactic beings that can suck the oceans off the planet? I'm impressed.
Yeah. Lena, you just said that he doesn't buy Matt Dillahunty's claim that if something like that happened, he wouldn't actually change his beliefs. He's saying if something like that actually happened, Matt Dillahunty would come to change his beliefs based on it.
Yeah, he'd be fine.
It's sort of like Pine Creek and the wet napkin. Matt Dillahunty basically says if the wet napkin got lit on fire, I still wouldn't believe because you would never, I'd have all these other questions. Richard is saying, bro, if that napkin gets lit on fire and at the end of it, like your name is spelled and the person who's lighting the napkin on fire, their hand doesn't get burnt, you're gonna be thinking about that pretty differently.
And besides, there's like 20 napkins.
Yeah.
I'm making it a little tougher for God. I have
go ahead.
All the children. I have all the children in children's hospitals around the world being healed in the same moment. So, and they walk out.
I just want a cure for COVID so I can get my freak on. That's all I want, Jesus. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much?
Science, biology, learned guy.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
I understand the text to be making a claim. I have never been able to look to see if this claim would be true. Okay?
Sure.
If stem cells were everywhere they needed to be on demand, would we be not immortal but eternal beings?
Interesting.
I don't know. I think it's a really interesting question. I have no idea because it's not my area of biology, and you probably know more about stem cells than I do, to be honest. But my thinking about this is just to say this. It's funny that religion always seems to play on that heartstring, right? There's that one thing we always go back to, our fear of death and this quest to be eternal. Sure. I'm not really with it, to be honest. I want to die. I've realized this. I don't want to go through a painful or excruciating death, but I definitely want to die. But it's interesting to me that if we are ever immortal, it will be because of a scientific achievement. Right.
Yes, it is because of a scientific achievement that they achieved millennia ago and enjoy and are offering us on a silver platter. Now by 2026, Science Magazine, August of 2016, claimed that we should find the protein that releases the microRNA blocker, releasing and freeing the rest of our genetic material that is copied but not coding right now. This would result in us being able to produce the correct amount of telomerase and give us stem cells where needed, whenever needed. Now, there's already 30 different species on this planet that are not immortal. That means you can't be killed, but are eternal. That means you don't age effectively.
Yeah.
And it's something like negligible. I can't think of the right words.
Richard, don't ever talk to theists about this. Don't tell them that their God that loves them made other creatures that don't die, but not them.
Even the northern Atlantic whale lives forever. What about loggerhead turtles? Come on, guys.
That's a serious
desert tortoise
trouble right there.
It lives forever.
Lena said, no, don't be a nihilist, Jay. I'm not it's just, look, I just think that's like that's what all the primates that have gone before me have done. They've just expired after a while. And so I'm with it. I've just accepted it. No. I mean, look, people can convince me like, oh, Jay, we just came up with this new pill. You'll live forever, and then they'll give me like a pamphlet, right? And I'll read the pamphlet, and then maybe I'll go with it. But in the meantime, I got a
serious question for you.
In the meantime, I'm good.
If you have people that love you, you'd be depriving them. That's part of the equation too.
It is, but see, the thing is, I think they're gonna die too, right? And like I also think that right now the world doesn't need us to live forever. Like what it really needs us to do is make room for young people. So like to me, it's like after I've done my thing and I've taught a lot of people in the next generation and stuff, it's time for me to go and for young people to take over, and then they need to go. So because you got to remember, a lot of times we deal with the resistance. You got to remember, if we start living forever, that means all these people who we can't change their minds, and they refuse to get with new information, and they refuse to learn, and they're never going to go back through the formal education system. They're going to be around voting forever. You're gonna have Ted Cruz and Marjorie Taylor Greene infinitely. 18 Trumps running for president, right? I don't want this.
Simultaneously.
Let's just die so we can keep updating the new generations with better and better information, right? You got to. That's how we progress. We progress through evolution. And evolution happens over the course of generations, not individual organisms living eternally. So I know it probably hurts your feelings, but as an evolutionary biology, I want the population to evolve, not Jay to live forever. Go ahead.
Richard, next conversation, where the Bible describes the process of evolution, but including abiogenesis, but it just did not happen here.
Oh, okay. Let's get it. I'm with it.
So Richard, are you open to the idea that we human, and maybe this will open up Jay to the prolonged life, human beings moving beyond this planet and living on other worlds?
Yeah, No Name said the same thing. If I could flit around the universe exploring, that would be cool. Yeah, get me off this rock and give me like infinite things to go explore. Whole different ball game.
I know that it was some moments ago that I read this, but in the beginning of what matters to you, powerful beings reformed the sky and the planet. The Bible's describing terraforming. And yes, they go to new areas and find M-zone planets at the right rotational rate around the right kind of star, and then they transform that planet and make another Earth.
Yeah, it does sound like what matters to you is answering a question. In the beginning of what matters to you.
Oh yes,
it sounds like answering
a question.
Someone's answering a question.
Oh, absolutely.
What was the question?
Why read this book?
Why read this book? Okay.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get your questions in. I'm gonna take a couple more questions. Go ahead.
Can I take this one from Iron Charioteer?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Richard, do feel free to follow up after I read this. I'm going to Ezekiel 31. I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast here. In the Ezekiel chapter 31. In the 11th year, in the 3rd month, on the 1st day, the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, say to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his hordes, who could be compared with you in majesty? Consider Assyria, once a cedar in Lebanon. So you'll recall I said nations were referred to as trees. With beautiful branches overshadowing the forest, it towered on high, its top above the thick foliage. The waters nourished it. Deep springs made it grow tall. Their streams flowed all around its base and sent their channels to all the trees of the field. That would be other nations, probably under their rule. So it towered higher than all the trees of the field. Its boughs increased and its branches grew long, spreading because of the abundant waters. All the birds of the sky nested in its boughs. All the animals of the wild gave birth under its branches. All the great nations lived in its shade. It was majestic in beauty with its spreading boughs, for its roots went down to abundant waters. The cedars in the garden of God could not rival it, nor could the junipers equal its boughs, nor could the plane trees compare with its branches. No tree in the garden of God could match its beauty. I made it beautiful with abundant branches, the envy of all the trees of Eden in the garden of God.
All right, and I'm going to let Richard close us out on this one. That was beautiful. I don't know who the scholar is. That was so well spoken and thought. And then y'all see his Bible skills. He's just like right there with the Bible, y'all. My answer, I've been smoking it the whole show. That's what I think of when I Tree of Life. My brain hears Tree of Life, thinks marijuana. It just does. I'm just being honest. It's my show. I got to be honest. That's what I think. Go ahead, Richard.
My one black friend.
Yes.
There is one definition and no competitor for how the word waters, overly pluralized even in their language, is being used. It appears in the book of Revelation. These waters that you have seen are, not are similar to, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Now go read what you just read again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know if you heard me do a very COVID-like pronunciation of water.
Overdoing it on purpose because the waters means people.
I knew where you were headed. So believe me,
good for you.
I know. I'm. It's alley-oop. I'm tossing the ball up. So I'll go to verse 5. This is chapter 31 of Ezekiel. So it towered higher than all the trees of the field. Its boughs increased, and its branches grew long, spreading because of the abundant waters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lena was just saying that Terrence McKenna thought that it was mushrooms. Spores can survive in space and get launched off the planet in collision events. Lena, is that the same Terrence McKenna who was like, he's the ethnobiologist, right? Because I read about him in college and I was going to do some stuff on him. And I was like, wow, it's so interesting that she's talking about the same thing. Yeah, this has been a great episode, guys. This has been super fun. We will definitely have Richard on again. Also, Richard, anytime I'm live, you're welcome to come by. Guys, if you have not seen it, Gutsit Gibbon made an entire 40-minute video about me. I don't know what happened. We're famous. Go check it out. It's super cool. If you haven't watched it and you want to see us react to it, I think tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, when I do my evolution time with Cliff, I think I'll have Cliff react to it. That was the original plan, and then my power went out. So I think I'll have Cliff react to it on Monday, and I'll be the start of my week, and then I'll get going with some digital evolution stuff after that. But this has been super, super fun. Like I said, folks, yes. I want people to answer 2 questions. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? I get really irritated when people do a whole song and dance instead of just answering the question. Richard instead has just scratched the surface, and as you can see, we're not joking, folks. If you give us a chance, we will just keep going on what you believe and why you believe it, and we can always follow up. We can do more. It's really what you want to talk about, and you can see things actually get really, really interesting when we can actually have this conversation openly. So thanks so much for doing this. And yes. Richard, you got to plug your stuff. At least tell us something you did in the past. Where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you?
Of course, I got Demolish Doctrine on YouTube, Demolish_Doctrine, Richard Madsen. You'll see the same symbol because this is a painting of heaven that I just plaster everywhere I can put it, just so people see that picture in their mind when they see the arrival. They won't be too freaked out by it. I've been on MathPig. I'm still kind of doing a show of my own on my own channel when I can find the time. Of course, I've been on This One Guy, Darth Dawkins, Nephilim Free.
Is there a Pine Creek video up on your page? Your YouTube?
Yeah, I use it as my opener. Actually, if you just listen to the opener, that's Doug talking there. And I don't know, I've done a lot of episodes with the Raging Atheist, also Atheist Edge, also Khalil Allah or Justin Downing, EA. Empathetic Atheist.
Guys, I will definitely try to have Erica on my channel. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to Erica. That's something I'm going to be trying to do this week. But yeah, thank you so much, Richard. This has been super, super fun.
Yes.
And like I said, I gotta be somewhere in a little bit, but we've got a little bit of time. So we like to go around and give our concluding thoughts. I'll start. I let my one black friend go, and then we let our guest close it out. Richard, you're just super fun. I met Richard through No Name. He sent me a link to your stream. I listened to a couple of your stream live. They were super cool. and you've had a bunch of people in our community on, and unlike LPP, you didn't like mute them and kick them out and whatever. Like,
weird.
Weird.
I'll try to do it next time.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I always find that you're an interesting guy, and you are obviously clearly well researched, right? And then also you have a lot of interesting people on, so I was excited about doing this. And you know, in the field of counter-apologetics, I think your ideas are interesting. You know, I have different ideas, obviously, but obviously you don't propose any miracles, so you know your worldview isn't really anti-scientific or anything wild like that. And I think on sort of the social, political sort of dangers of religion that I'm really more interested in, I think we're on the same page as those things. So right, so I don't really feel the need that you'll be seeing any debunking Richard Madsen videos anytime soon.
You know, Jay,
and if you
none of
did,
us
they'd probably
ever
just
had
be
to
to promote your
explain.
channel and all in good fun. Go ahead.
None of us ever had to explain, and no one would inquire with a new mother why she's holding her infant. The things that are obvious require no apologetic.
There you go.
It's only when things are not obvious and maybe suspicious that they require an apologetic. To explain your position is one thing. To give an apologetic as to why you hold a position is a very different thing.
And to that point, most of what we do with counter-apologetics is like, okay, let's watch this video. Why? Because this person's about to spend 90 minutes not answering the question of what do they believe and why they believe it. Instead, they're going to give us some philosophical blasé and the Glavinoids, some evidential nonsense. But if you were in church with them on Sunday morning, they would give you a totally different response if you just asked them what do you believe and why you believe it. And so to your point, people like you are difficult to counter-apologize because you do it to yourself. You're like, I'm going to tell you everything, which is what I do. And then it's like, well, the person is actually honestly telling you what they believe and what they think, and they're better at explaining it and answering it than I am. So there's just, like you said, there's just no need to. But my one black friend, go ahead and give us your concluding thoughts.
My kind of conversation, quite honestly. I really enjoyed listening to the Art Bell and George Norrie style programs coming up. I rarely had a thing to say. I just was so excited to hear that kind of discussion. Richard, yours is, I'd say your interpretation of things is not unlike my own, but in some ways, but in other ways, radically different than my own. And I'm not so closed-minded that I can't listen. I think I show it. I listen with a lot of enthusiasm because what if you're right? You know, what if you're right? Then I want to be able to glean that from what I read when I go back into the biblical text, because it's probably not the only place where we can find things like what you're talking about.
Let me give you
written about it, please.
I'm sorry. I'm so excited to talk to you too. I can't shut up. I apologize for that. Truly. Okay. The promised land is not a place on the Gaza Strip. The promised land means heaven, the land that is promised. When you enter the promised land, subdue it and conquer it. There will be those there who do not call me God. In heaven are no liars. In heaven, there are those who are not lying when they don't call him God. That's the definition of a non-human. Don't call him God. That's the definition of...
Sorry, that was my browser here. I'm just checking out the... I was making Iron Charioteer a mod. Iron Charioteer is one of my... OG YouTube buddies, so we had to go ahead and give Iron Charioteer the mod privilege.
The name alone is brilliant. I love the reference to the Iron Chariots.
Oh, wait, speaking of brilliant names, Titan Uranus got Rebecca to sing "Happy Birthday" on air. That was
and say the phrase Titan Uranus.
Yes. Yes,
that's lovely.
It was.
Did she know what? Did she realize what she was doing?
Yes. Rebecca has a bad side. I'm just putting it out there, y'all. Rebecca Rebecca has a bad side. She likes to have a good time. She's fun. Y'all saw her do that Atheist Rebecca. She was a little too good at that. A little too good at that. Oh, man. This has been super fun, guys. I will be back live probably in about 10 or 15 minutes on Pocket Locker 86 and J Bundy, getting ready for church with the GTA Motorcycle Club. I'm gonna be with my club. Come join us. A little bit of gaming and shaming. I'll have some counter-apologetic stuff going while they're doing the chat. While we're doing our officer chat and our church with the members, I can't have the audio on, so I play something else. But then at 10 o'clock, we will do the Atheist Crew Book Club. That'll be the next chapter of Christopher Hitchens' God is Not Great. There'll be an after party after that. And then I'll just be streaming all day, all week, because that's what we're doing until August 12th. We're trying to raise $100 for the International Bipolar Foundation because I'm bipolar. Like I said, if you like my content, consider donating to the International Bipolar Foundation through my channel. We really appreciate that. And like I said, if you don't like my content, consider donating because bipolar people need help. We need better medication. Maybe I wouldn't be so crazy. Maybe you'd like my content more, right? You see where I'm going with this?
Consider that the Earth is bipolar.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Then in the Earth. The Earth is bipolar. Exactly. I'm just one with Mother
Web is bipolar.
Also, guys, please go subscribe to Richard Madsen. Yes. If you want to be one of the ultra cool kids, you could turn on notifications. That way you won't miss one of his live shows or his new drops. Richard, thank you so much. We will definitely have you back on the program.
Humbling privilege.
My one black friend, this is always fun. And the chat, man, I love you guys. This chat has been phenomenal. Please, if you watch the video later, go ahead and leave us a comment. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Please share the video with your friends and family. We appreciate all that. As always, be good to yourselves.
And each other.
We are out of here. Thank